Hello, dear students, and a very good morning to all of you. I am here with the third and the last part of the first chapter of the history, that is, the birth of modern India, when, where, and how. Students, we learn about the birth of modern India in our previous two parts, but now we will look upon the second part of the chapter, that is, when, where, and how, and look at here what are the contents. How important are dates? Which dates are important? How do we periodize modern India and colonial perspective? Sources of modern India, that is, administrative records, books, newspaper, magazines, letter, pamphlets, photographs, paintings, and statues. So let's start. Our first topic is when. Look at the title of the chapter, that is when, where, and how. Students, if you look at these three words, how, when, and where, these are the primary words associated with history or any past events. Like, take an example: how did that happen? When did that happen? Where did it happen? Students, history is about asking questions, so all these three words, how, when, and where, is related to the past events. When we read history, we see lots of dates. Now we will see that how important are dates. I find history boring because it is all about memorizing dates. This All of us are having this conception that history is boring because we have to memorize lots of dates in history. Is such a conception true? When we read history, we see a lots of dates. This is the reason why you feel like history is boring. But history is much more than a date. It is actually a comparison of past and present. What happened in the past and what it is now. So, history is not only fascinated till dates, history is about the comparison of past and present. We learn it in reference of dates like what happened in the past and what it is now. And when you are curious enough to ask that comparison, only then you will start to find history interesting. Like, look at some questions are given here in the red column. When did people begin to drink tea and coffee? When were railways started and how did people travel along distances from the age of railways? How did people got to hear about things before newspaper began to be printed? So these are all the questions. There are many more. These are some questions that comes to your mind, or maybe due because of your curiosity you have these questions in your mind. For example, when you drink tea, you could ask a question: when did people begin to drink tea? How did tea plantations started in India? There were two sets of questions. First is how and then when. Students, the how part is the explanation or reason, and the when part is the date we are asking for. So here, when did people begin to drink tea? The when part is asking about the date, and how the plantation of the tea started is asking about the explanation of the development of the process of tea drinking. So, history is associated with dates, which makes a comparison easier. All such questions refer us back to a notion of time, but time does not have to be always precisely dated in terms of particular year or month, because we cannot determine a particular date that when the people of India started drinking tea. They must have developed the taste for tea in some time. So, after that only the tea became common among the people. So, we cannot fix a particular date to know that when the people of India started drinking tea. tea. It is a process that took a process of time, a period of time to develop. Here it is written, people of India did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed a taste for it over time. There can be no clear date for a process such as this. Similarly, we cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established or national movement started. So these all the processes took in a span of time. It took some period of time. So we learn about these processes in period of time by the study of span of time. All these happened over a stretch of time. We can only refer to span of time, an approximate period over which particular changes became visible. Now, there was a time when history was fascinated with dates, and we can also say that history is synonymous to date. But history is not something that is only related to dates. History is certainly about the change that occur over time. It is about finding how things were in the past and how things have changed. Since we do not have any solid historical proofs to determine the actual time, therefore, we have depend upon an approximate time period over which particular change became visible for. Let's take an example. We cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established in India. We know that English East India Company came to India in 1608 and they started ruling from 1707. But we cannot fix one date on which British rule started in India. We have an approximate date here. Now, if we are saying that, why then do we continue to associate history with a string of dates? If we are saying that no, now history is no more the study of dates only, it is the study of the change, what was in the past and what is now in the present. Then why do we continue to associate history with a string of dates? Then why we are learning dates in history? Because this association has a reason. There was a time when history was an account of battles and big events. It was about rulers and their policies. Historians wrote about the year a king was crowned, the year he married, the year he fought bravely or particular war, the year he died, and the year the next ruler succeeded the throne. Now, for all these such events, specific dates can be determined. Dates cannot be determined for a span of time like Britishers ruled over India approximately for 190 years. So, if we will start writing the history for that 190 years, it is not possible for us to cover each and every event or to cover each and every day of 190 years. So we learn history, or we the historians wrote the history by comprising the special events, by comprising the particular or the special events that took place and in that period. So in reference with those particular events only, we comprised our whole struggle of freedom. Now, the question arises, by what criteria do we choose a set of dates as important? Now, how we will come to know that which type of date is important or which events are important? The dates we select, the dates around which we compose our story of the past, are not important on their own. That means everything that is occurred in the past, everything is not that important. Suppose that I have provided you a task or an activity to write about your history or to write about the past 10 years of your life. Now, the past 10 years of your life you are going to describe. So you will not be able to describe each and every day of the past 10 years. Your history when you will be writing, then you will also add the special events. Your history will also be surrounded to the special events or the events that you have remembered, like your birthdays, when you first time started schooling, about your when your parents provided you first gift, when you first time started laughing. All these things, maybe it comprises your history, because your birthdays, when you took birth, about all these things only, your history will also be surrounded around these areas. So students, they become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. We are knowing that history is a written record. That means it is composed by the historians. Now every historian is having different minds, a set of mind or set of ideas in their mind. They are having this different perspective of seeing a particular event. One event is important for one historian, and that is not important for the other one. So when historians comprise history, so history changes, yeah, the dates have their importance according to the perspective of the historians. If our focus of study changes, that is only I am explaining, history is about in written records, so historians focus on different sets of date. If our focus of study changes, if we begin to look at new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. If our focus of study changes, if we begin to look at new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. Now, just take an example. In the histories written by British historians in India, the history that is composed by the British historians, the rule of each governor general was important. According to the history written by the British historians, their whole events or the history is surrounded around their British governor generals. That was important for them. These histories began with the rule of the first governor general, that is Warren Hastings, and ended with the last viceroy, that is Lord Mountbatten. Now, the history of the Britishers is totally surrounding around their governor generals, that is their first governor general Warren Hastings and the last governor general Lord Mountbatten. Now these historians were very literate and highly educated. Most of the history is related to them only. Now what is the problem with this type of history? In the histories written by British historians, most of the content is related to the British Governor Generals, their life, their policies, and everything surrounding to them only. The activities of Indians simply do not fit with the story because they do not describe about Indians much. India had no space, hence we need to another format of history where all the events related to Indians. This could mean that we need a new type of periodization. Now, the question arises, how do we periodize? So, the process of periodization was attempted in 1817 by a Scottish economist and political philosopher James Mill. James Mill was a Scottish economist belongs to, and political philosopher. In 1817 he published a book named A History of British India. So students, in this he divided Indian history into three periods. Now what was those three periods? Hindu, Muslim and British. He divided the Indian history that we have divided according to ancient, medieval and modern. He divided the Indian history as Hindu, Muslim and British. What would his point of view? We will have a look here. He denounced the pre British period and glorified the British period in India. what he has composed in his book, that the period before the British era was not that good, and he glorified the British period in India. According to his views, when Britishers came to India, the the history of India started glorifying, the condition of India started improving. He projected the Hindu and Muslim periods with everything that obstructed the growth of Indian society. In his book, he projected like that, that Hindu and Muslim periods, that were the periods that obstructed the development of the Indian society, while the British period was seen as the dawn of modern civilization. According to his point of view, British period was the time, that means the rising of the modern civilization. Mill thought that all Asian societies were at the lower level of civilization than Europe. According to him, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots, means he believed that the rulers, our Mughal rulers or the Hindu rulers, was just a despot, that means dictators who were ruling the country. But we are knowing that our rulers, whether it is during the medieval period or whether it is during the ancient period, our rulers were not the despots. They think about their kingdom, they think about the people who were living there. He also said that religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. He has written that when Britishers came to India at that time, Indians were, in India, there were the conditions of religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices by the social life. Now, Mill's suggestions. After his point of view, we will come to know that what Mill suggested. He suggested that the Britishers could civilize India. Britishers could civilize India. He claimed that only Britishers could civilize India. It was necessary to introduce European manner, arts, institutions, and laws in India. He suggested British could conquer all the territories of India to ensure enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people. He said India was not capable of progress without British help. Now, in James Mill periodization, the period before British rule was represented as one of darkness. James Mill, in his periodization, he represented that before the arrival of the Britishers in India, the Indian society was in darkness. That was in the dusk. That means he believed that the pre-British period was the dusk and the British period was the dawn. That means rising and setting of sun. Now the question arises, can such periodization be accepted today? Are you ready to accept this type of periodization? That Indian people were no more, yeah, not civilized when Britishers came to India? Can we refer any period of history as Hindu and Muslim? Is it correct to refer any period as Hindu or Muslim? Do you think variety of faith exists simultaneously in this period? Do you not think that not only Hindu and Muslims were surviving during the Hindu and Muslim periods, since during the Hindu period that he said as Hindu period, in the ancient periods, the rulers, those who were ruling, they belonged to Hinduism. But we have also seen the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. He did not concluded that thing, those religions in his writing. He only described about Hindu rulers. So at that time also many faiths were existing simultaneously. Jainism was also there, Buddhism was also there. Don't you think variety of faiths exists simultaneously in these periods? Why do we characterize an age only through the religion of the rulers of that time? How can we characterize a period according to the religion? So, these are the problems in his periodization. Now, one more classification came, that is, many historians other than Britishers have classified the Indian history, or we can say that they have also divided the Indian history into three periods, that is, ancient, medieval, and modern. Now, this division has its problem. Now, this division too has its problem. Now, what were the problems that were discussed? Yeah, what were the problems that were related to this periodization? This periodization is borrowed from the West. First of all, this type of periodization was existing in the contemporary world. That means we can take an example of Europe. The history of Europe is also divided into ancient, medieval, and modern. This concept was borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with growth. In Europe, the Industrial Revolution had took place, French Revolution took place, America was also trying to independent itself. So modern period was associated with growth of all the forces of modernity. That period is known as those countries, that period is known as modern because modern ideas came coming to those countries. But like science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. Now the question arises, can we uncritically accept this characterization for the modern period to describe the period of the Indian history under the Britishers? Can we say the period of India under the Britishers as the modern period? No, because as we are knowing that under British rule, people of India did not have equality, freedom, or liberty. Nor was the period one of economic growth and progress. Nor India was developing at that time, nor the people of Indians were happy at that time. They do not have equality, freedom, or liberty. So, how can we say that the period when Britishers came to India was the modern period? So, many historians therefore refer to the modern period as colonial period. So, many historians named the modern period as colonial period. According to them, it was the period of the colonial. Now, why what is colonial? Why they conclude it as a colonial period? Because that was the time when the British came to conquer the country and establish their rule, subjugating local Nawabs and Rajas. That we will see in our further chapters that how Britishers subjugate our power. But so what we have learned till now, first of all we have learned why dates are important, which types of date we will choose, or not only dates are important in history, history is related to the study of the past. Yeah, history is the study of the comparison of past and present. Now we will see sources of modern history. First source is administration produces records. Now, the administration also produces records. Administrative records. Now, what are administrative records? We will see. Administrative records such as government orders and official correspondence or official records are significant source of historical information. Britishers' official records that they were composing at the time are important for us as the source of modern history. The Britishers believed that the act of writing was important. They believe that the act of writing is important. That means they feel that every instruction, plan, policy, decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. They believe that all these, whatever plan, instruction, policies, decision, everything should be in written form. This conviction produced an administrative culture of memos, notings, and reports. Now, why the Britishers feel that to record every proceedings? Britishers believe that every official proceedings should be clearly or properly recorded to enable clarity and also to be available for future reference in case of any disputes. Students, today also there is a culture of storing records that you can see in your school also. There is one record room where all the records of the students are stored. Like that only, in every office nowadays, there is a record room where all the particular recordings, your all the papers, your all the important documents are stored. That was started by the Britishers only. Firstly, Britishers believed that it is important to note down the important events. Every plan, policy, decision, they started writing it. Now after writing it, the Britishers also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be carefully preserved. It is important to preserve all the documents. So they set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions. They started constructing record rooms also near their institutions like the village tehsildar's office, the provincial secretariat, the law, all had their record rooms. Every offices have their records room. Now, Britishers also constructed archives and museums for preserving important records. Britishers started constructing archives. Archives were the places we have learned during medieval period also. Archives were the places where the important written documents were stored, and museums for preserving important records. Now, in the early 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphists. Who were the calligraphists? Calligraphists were the people, we have learned this in medieval period. Calligraphists were the people whose handwriting was very good. So they only write all the major important recordings. By the middle of 19th century, with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed. And after the introduction of the press in India or the printing started, all these records started printing properly. Now we will see, look here, the first one is National Archive of India based in Delhi. It houses old government documents, diaries, letters, newspapers, notes, farmans, and rare books of yours. It was set up during the British rule in 1926. Students, firstly, the National Archive was in Kolkata. After that, it was shifted to Delhi in its new building. The purpose of setting up the National Archive was to keep and maintain records of the government. The next is the National Museum that is in New Delhi, also known as the National Museum of India, is one of the largest museum in India. Established in 1949, it holds a variety of articles ranging from pre-British historical era to modern work of art. Now we will see the second important source that we are having, that is surveys. Britishers believed in conducting surveys. Now, what are surveys? Surveys signifies the process of examine and record the area and feature of an area of land so as to construct a map, plan or description. Survey means to examine a particular land or to examine a particular area. The practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. The British officials started surveying the land of India. Now the question arises, why they started the surveys? Why they started surveying Indian lands? This we will see. The British believed that a country has to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. British have this in mind that they are new in this country, and before ruling this country it is important to know this country properly, and they believe that before administering a country effectively it is important to know that country. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. Detailed surveying started in India by the Britishers because they wanted to provide a map to the country. They conducted revenue services in villages to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, fauna, the local histories, and the cropping pattern. Now, why they started doing this? All the facts seen as necessary to know about to administer the region. They started conducting the surveys of the villages to know about that how the soil of the villages, to know about the quality of the soil, to know about the quality of flora and fauna, about everything. So, the Survey of India was set up in Dehradun. Firstly, the Survey of India was set up in Dehradun, which made detailed map of towns, villages, mountain and coast. The first Surveyor General of Bengal was appointed in 1767 and the first Surveyor General of India in 1815. These are important. This question can ask, you can note it down. The Survey of India was set up in Dehradun. The first Surveyor General of Bengal was appointed in 1767 and the first Surveyor General of India in 1815. George Everest became the Surveyor General in 1830. In 1849, the height of Mount Everest was calculated and it was named after him for his exemplary contribution. On his name only, this mountain named Mount Everest. So, he calculated the height of the mountain also. So, what is survey? Survey is to examine a land, river, mountains, to know its length, to know its height. The map of Hyderabad region made by Dr. H. W. Voise in 1821 was the first proper geological map made in India. Map of towns, cities, villages and roads etc. were made. These maps help us today to know about the kind of rural and urban patterns of settlements. Students, at that time, look into this diagram. At that time, biological, zoological, archaeological, botanical, anthropological surveys, forest surveys also started. That means they started surveying, examining whole resources of India. Now the next is census. Now what is census? A census means getting information about every member of a population. That means census means the counting of the number of people residing in a particular area or in a country. So Britishers also started census. The census is a process that is conducted after every 10 years. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. These census are continuously starting this time also. Last census was in 2011. So, in villages, revenue surveys were conducted. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years to prepare detailed records of the number of people in India. These prepared detailed records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on caste, religions, and occupation. Why census were conducted by the Britishers? To know about the number of people residing in a particular area. So that is only they conducted surveys also, they conducted census also, they believed in maintaining official records. So, surveys, census, official records were the sources that were started by the Britishers, or that is sources for us. Now, we will see that what official records do not tell us. Students, the survey, the government records, or the census. These are all official records. We do not come to know about the situation of the common people by these records. So, this is only those records were not telling. These were the official records. From this vast corpus of records, we can get to know a lot, but we must remember that these are official records. They tell us what the official thought what they were interested in, and what they wished to preserve for posterity, means for the future generation. These records do not always help us to understand what other people in the country felt and what lay behind their actions. So, for that, we need to look elsewhere. When we begin to search for these other resources, we find them in plenty, though they are more difficult to get than official records because they are not compiled at one places, because they are not preserved. So it is difficult for us to get these resources, but after that also we are having plenty of other resources other than official records. Now we will see other literary sources. What were the other literary sources that were existing, yeah, that are for us as a source of modern history? Diaries of people, accounts of pilgrims, accounts of travelers, autobiographies, popular books, newspapers, magazines, ideas, poems, and novels for leaders and reformers. Students, the printing press was invented in the 15th century by a German named Johannes Gutenberg. So the printing press was invented in 15th century only. Please remember the name, that who invented the printing press. Subsequently, the print technology underwent many change. With the arrival of the British, there was a huge growth in the production of books, magazines, newspapers, and journals. Now, books that contain a collection of speeches like those delivered by Nehru or the 100 volumes of Gandhiji's collected works are still extremely important as they place the events in correct perspective. In the perspective of Indian. Similarly, Dadabhai Naoroji's Poverty and Un-British Rule in India attacked the British government's economic policies and is an important source for the economic history of this period. I am giving you some examples of books only. Premchand wrote about the peasants and the downtrodden. The play Neel Darpan by Deenbandhu Mitra also highlighted the exploitation of workers at indigo plantation. Can you see, these are the Indian resources. These are the books that was composed by the Indian writers. Now we will see autobiographies and biographies of prominent personalities such as Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru are also extremely important as a source of historical information for this period. Books proved very helpful as they highlighted the exploitation of Indians by the British, whereas government records tell us only what the British government officials thought or what they were interested in and what they wished to preserve for the posterity. These books helped in the spread of nationalist spirit among the masses. Now, the books composed by the Indian leaders or the reformers are very important for us because in those books we are able to see the perspective of the Indians under the British rule. Now, have a look upon newspapers, magazines, letters, and pamphlets. A large number of newspapers, magazines, and pamphlets were printed throughout India in different languages, regional languages also. Some of these are still in publication with a record of their old editions systematically kept in their libraries. Bal Gangadhar Tilak's Kesari in Marathi is one of the most notable examples. Reading these papers, now what happened? Yeah, by reading all these resources, all the newspapers or magazines that are preserved, what we come to know from these resources. Reading these papers recreates before us an atmosphere which prevailed 100 years ago or so. Like today's newspaper, if we will read after 10 or 20 years, by reading the newspaper, whole atmosphere will be created around us like that situation only. So by reading these newspapers, recreates, that means that atmosphere again creates, which prevailed 100 years ago or so. Letters are especially important as they help us to understand the prevailing situation from a personal point of view. Letters have individual perspective. Letters were written by individuals in a particular situation. So letters also played an important role in sources because they understand, yeah, they help us to understand the prevailing situation from a personal point of view. Now, photographs, paintings, and statues. Photographs was a new art medium and extremely valuable. We will see in further chapters that when photography was started, as it captured historical moments for posterity and facilitated an almost perfect historical representation. Photograph is something that we click at that moment and there is no artificiality. We click the photograph and we can store it for our future, like we are having our photos of the childhood also. So that is only photography was a new art medium and extremely valuable because it captured historical moments for the future generations and facilitated an almost perfect historical representation. Various statues you have seen at the chaurahas. Various statues and rare paintings are not only important as work of art. The statues or the paintings tell us about the work of art also, but they also tell us something about the physical features and achievements of the national leaders and great historical personalities. Painting also tell us about the perspective of the painter, that what he tried to tell us through the medium of painting. Now we will also see about films. Film production were also started at that time. Documentary as well as feature films also help in the study of this period. The impression left after watching such films is of more permanent nature as we see events with our own eyes. We have seen many pictures, many documentaries that are produced with the idea of the freedom struggle or that are produced related to the British Indian struggle under the Britishers. Sir Richard Attenborough's film Gandhi includes an actual news real life of Gandhiji's visit to Manchester. Another film, Achut Kanya, the love story of an untouchable girl and a Brahmin boy, was a commercial success. That means it was promoting, yeah, it was totally denying the caste taboos. Many such films are restored with the films division. Now, these were the other sources upon which we can depend for the sources of modern history. Now we will see the monuments. So, a number of famous monuments and buildings of British period can be seen throughout the length and breadth of the country. This time also many British monuments, yeah, the monuments that were constructed by the Britishers is existing in our country. Some of these are the India Gate, Parliament House, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Birla House where Gandhiji was assassinated, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, and many more are there. Victoria Terminal, many more monuments are there from which, yeah, through which we come to know about the architecture of India at that time. All these buildings tell us why these buildings were constructed, who constructed these buildings, what was the architecture of these buildings, us much about our bare cost and different aspect of the architecture of India at that time. So students, the explanation is over now and this chapter is also completed. Now, if you are having any doubt, you can ask me questions through comment box so that I come to know that you are watching the videos and you are understanding the chapter. If you are not able to understand, you can ask me questions. I will explain you that topic again.